We are raw and real Western women who have endured the fires of life, and though we carry the brands of our trials,
we are learning how to satisfy our thirst with the well water that comes from the only one that can truly satisfy, Jesus.
Journey with us as we explore an unlimited range of topics. We will discuss our personal experiences,
the good, the bad, and the ugly, along our beautiful journeys to the well, and so much more.
Water up! Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are filming episode 10 this evening, and our topic is, why don't we enjoy it? And this is a topic that is applicable in everybody's home, each of ours and each of yours, I'm sure. It's something that affects each and every one of us, so we're going to dig into it this evening.
I'm going to start by reading 1 Corinthians 7:4, and this is kind of just the first point that we're going to cover with this topic, but verse 4 says, "The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does."
That's a hard one to swallow. Not gonna lie. I think in reading that, being married, I've been married for going on 12 years, and it's definitely something that has gotten a little different, I would say, from upon first meeting my husband to being married now. It's not that you don't love him, but the intensity of wanting sex, is totally different after you bring kids and all of that into it, and you're more reluctant not to give yourself to your husband the way you once did. And I know that's something that we all struggle with for the most part.
We allow the new to wear off instead of just always keeping it fresh and keeping it new. It's just like, okay, we've already been here. We've already done it. Now we have to do it again.
Can we just skip today?
Yeah.
I don't want to check the checklist today.
Yes.
Well, that's just it. We've made it into a checklist now. Being married for an amount of time where the new does wear off, and you either have kids in the midst of it or, you're just doing life, that newness wears off, and then it becomes like a checklist to some of us. I know for me especially, it's like you do all the things or you put all these things in front of it when it should be made a priority in the first place. And we let it become a checklist because it's normally at the very bottom, and it's like by the time you get there, you're just like have no energy to do it. And then it makes it unenjoyable, so then you just feel obligated. You have to do it, and it's not what God intended it to be.
Yeah, and it's not always easy. So, no names given, but I know multiple families, or have heard of multiple families, where the husband and wife, they don't have a sexual relationship anymore. And there's always excuses involved. Our kids sleep with us, or, our bedroom door doesn't lock, or whatever the case may be. And those are excuses. We are called to take care of our husband just as they are called to take care of our sexual needs. And whatever the excuse may be that's lying in the way, those things have to be addressed so that you can have a happy marriage and a happy sex life.
Yeah. And it's like the whole talking, our bodies don't belong to us, they belong to them, vice versa. It's like a selfish thing. You have to cut that out, because when that need is there, you have to be able to fulfill it, or other things get pushed into play. Like if you don't say your husband has that need, because in my home, my husband's need is greater than mine. If you don't give it to him, then that pushes them to look at things that they shouldn't, or for instance, masturbation, things like those. That's pushing them into sin when you should have just given in, taken your time, went in there, prayed about it, or whatever you needed to do to prepare yourself and to go in and fulfill what they needed. Because I can tell you right now, my husband, if I'm like, let's do this, it's on. There's no questions asked. He's like, all right, and I'm like, why can't I be like that for him? I'm always like, no, I'm tired, or, you make up the excuses, and he never does that to me. If my need is there, it's like whatever I could do to help this out. And it's like, that needs to be returned instead of making it such a hard place for him to come. He doesn't even enjoy approaching me anymore because I make it such a headache you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then initially it'll push them into other sins, doing things that they shouldn't.
I think honestly, in my situation, it would be the part where it says my body is his. My body is not what it used to be 14 years ago. And so in my mind, I'm like, like, don't look at me, don't touch me, like, just turn the lights out,
Totally
or black. Like, I'm not what you used to have, so don't act like you still like it like you whenever you used to. But in his mind, he doesn't care. And so I need to keep in mind that my body isn't mine. It is his too, and he does want to cherish it. I just let my head about myself get in the way, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. It's just like using kids as an excuse. It's the same thing because, you know, we all age, and he's aging just like you are. His body changes just like yours does. And it's like you have to change with the times, you know, you got to adapt with the times. It's the same thing. You still have to treasure and value each other's bodies as you age and grow older.
I think for women, they just change a lot faster because you sit here and breastfeed 3 kids, you birth 3 kids. Like, there's nothing same head to toe about it and all the gray hair that comes with it.
My husband has told me before, he's like, you were beautiful when I met you, obviously, but you're more beautiful now. You've mothered my children. You know, you've adapted into a woman that's, you know, everything that I could ask for. You're more beautiful now than you are then. And it's just the worldly view that we put on ourselves and that the world puts on us is we have to look supermodel to be able for our husbands. And that's not it at all.
That doesn't turn you on?
No! It grosses me out.
Right?
I thought that was really, really beautiful.
It is beautiful, but then it's like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
That's what I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Here we go.
God's working on me on that because he brought to my attention I was struggling with that aspect. Like, it's been a struggle for a few years now. And it's not that anything's bad with it. It's just, it's not on the top of my priority list. And God told me, he said, you do not value that time with your husband. He said, just like in the past, you have not valued your time with me. You have put me on the back burner. You choose to make it a checklist and something that you just have to do and you don't enjoy it. You don't value it. So you're not going to put in the effort to do it. And like, that kind of like hit me hard, more along the lines of God was saying, well, you didn't value me enough to put me first. And like, that hurt my feelings. And then he brought it into about my husband. He was like, you have a man who loves you unconditionally, who works hard for you, you know, really good father. And here you are, you don't value him enough to give yourself to him for just this one period of time for a need that he needs when he meets all of your needs. And it's just like, geez, just make me feel like a crappy person. But I mean, it's true. You don't value that time with your husband. And that's what it is. It's not that his body's not sexy. It's not that your body's not sexy. There's no value. You don't value what God made special in your marriage. Because I'm telling you now, when we first met, valued it a whole lot. You know, now it's like, I'm just after the kids and work, and it's just not a value anymore. It's more of a headache to me. But I've made that way myself. So God's been working on me to make that more of a valued time.
Yeah.
I was going to say instead of chore time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short time.
Yeah. I think it's on the list of the top 3 things that keep a marriage healthy.
Exactly.
Like if your sex life is imbalanced and not healthy, your whole marriage is going to be off balance. If you can't find a way to be okay with it and be happy with it. Like, my perspective is a little bit different. I like it. I don't have a hard time, you know, devoting that kind of time to my husband. I enjoy it. But there are still challenges, because even though I don't struggle at the end of the day to be like, okay, yeah, you know, let's do this, there's still challenges that come with that, because he may be tired that day, or he may fall asleep before I do. And then, you know, I go to bed sexually frustrated, or, you know, we may have to communicate about what one likes and what the other doesn't, and, you know, find a balance in our sex life that works for both of us. And so even though I have a different point of view than, you know, most women do, I still have challenges in my home that are equivalent to, you know, the challenges that you face.
Yep. I think communication is big and key in that as well. Being able to communicate with your partner to let them know, listen, I don't really care to do it at night. By the time I get there, I'm tired, I'm touched out, like everything. Hit me up in the morning. Or me and my husband work together, so I'm like all about the middle of the day. It's like, hit me up in the middle of the day or first thing in the morning, like, we'll hide from the kids. It'll be like so much fun, and stuff like that. But then, like, I have to understand too, like, there's going to be days when he doesn't feel like that and nights would be better for him. So then it's up to me to make that work for him as well, because he's always making it work for me. But you have to be versatile, just like you said. Well, maybe he falls asleep. You have to be willing to work there, because he could be dead asleep and I can crawl into bed and lay real still, and he'll roll over and be like, "Hey babe, what's up?" And I'm like,
Yes. How did you know I'm in here? How did he? I was trying to be so quiet.
He was just all like coming over here to love on you. And I'm like, you were just sorry. I got a headache.
So on that note, let me read the second verse. Falls right in. So this is 1 Corinthians 7:33 through 34. But a married man is concerned with how he can please his wife. A married woman is concerned about how she can please her husband. So we are supposed to influence through action, right? So it falls in with what you were just saying. I might have to take the time to realize that the nighttime might be better for him today, or today he might have to realize that the middle of the day is better for me. We are supposed to be concerned with how we can please the other. And that influences action. So when you put in the action to please your spouse, it influences them to put in the action in return to please you.
Yep.
So it's almost like you have to give it to get it.
Yeah.
But you have to give it to influence getting it.
And not just expect something constantly in return.
Yes.
Just doing it just because it would make them happy.
Yes.
Because like, if we did it the other way, then it would turn into manipulation. And I only say that because it's like, it's a noticeable thing. Like, after you do it, like, I can be like, I want this. They'd be like, well, let's go get it. And I'm just like, yes, do this more often. But you have to like watch that, because it can turn into manipulation.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
that's right.
And so, like, when you're both, even though in the time of you thinking you don't need it and you do it, it's like deep down you really did, and you're glad that you did it afterwards. It's just the action of getting there. And basically, from my standpoint, it's more of a lazy standpoint. I don't want to sit here and have to do all this, and then 30 minutes later, whatever. It's like, I don't want to do all this. Can we just do it and get it over and like go on about our business? But that's my bad. It's not his bad. That's me. That's me being lazy in being able to help my husband and all of that. And because he's not lazy for me, he just does it because he enjoys making me feel good. And it should be the same. And I am guilty of not giving that back to my husband. And it has caused issues in our marriage. And it's something that is brought to the forefront, and he is not scared to tell me. Of course, we open communicate about everything, but it's like, it don't feel good when that's brought to you, and it's like, but I do all these other things for you, and that one thing.
Yeah.
But it means more to him than me washing his clothes, doing all the other things, because that's a time for just me and him. It's important. Like, it is an important thing.
And it helps when you tend to specific wants or needs, or things that your spouse likes. It helps grow the intimacy between the two of you. But it is easy to get selfish, and I'm guilty of that. So like Joel and I will talk, and we talk pretty openly in regards to our our sexual relationship, and I'm super guilty of being selfish, or even getting lazy too. Like if he gets lazy, I might get lazy too, or I might get selfish, but God always brings it to my attention, and then we'll have a conversation and address it. So just like our emotions, or our life in general and our families are on a constant fluctuation. Like, every day is different, and you experience something different each day. Our sex life is the same way. It's constantly fluctuating, but it's supposed to constantly fluctuate so that you can grow and better it and become closer and learn more about each other intimately.
It's like, for instance, we're supposed to know God in a very intimate way. Like going over Songs of Solomon, like reading that and how intimate that is. It's basically how God feels about us. But you can't just know the facts about it. You have to get intimate with it. So the same thing with your husband. You can know everything that they like and know all the facts about it, but until you have gone into it intimately and shared that with them, there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you're not doing it, you know what pleases them, but then you choose not to show no action with it, then you don't intimately get into that portion and being able to share that with them. And it's important. It's important.
Well, it's just like any relationship. You have to like grow as the longer you're together. I mean, you've got to put a little bit more effort into keeping it growing. Because the fire's there at first, always. That's not an issue. It's whenever that starts waning off and you learn the real person that you married and, the frustrations that come with that and things like that. You've got to put those on the back burner just to keep, because otherwise it splits everything and you start getting more fights. And I mean, like you said, if it's off balance in the bedroom, it's going to be off balance everywhere.
And that's like true statement right there. Throws the whole thing off.
It does. Well, and the frustration aspect of it is super real. So, from my point of view, being, a wife that is more inclined to, spend time that way with her husband, if he's not in the mood and I have to go to bed without it, I get frustrated. And it might go on for a couple days and I will get downright mad, and it'll start coming out in other parts of our relationship. And I might snap at him or I might treat him in a way that I shouldn't. And then it has to be brought to attention, like, okay, and you have to communicate and say, look, I'm like this because I am sexually frustrated. I need you to, help me take care of my needs, and I will help you take care of yours too. But it's the frustration aspect of it is real, but it can't be resolved without communication.
I think it's a lot of time you just want to bottle it up and be like, well, if you're going to act like that and because you didn't get this, then I'm so sorry. But you can't treat it like that, because then that fuels other desires in that person.
That's
that
right.
Causes the source of pornography, source of masturbation, or source of looking for it outside of whatever, So, I mean, that you just push them in that direction so easily when it's not given at home. So
when you really dive into it, there's a lot in the Bible on, a healthy sex life in your marriage. And I don't think that God would have gone to that much trouble to put all that in there if it wasn't so important. There is a lot in there when you dive into it, and it's a pretty good instruction manual, just like everything else. Like he gave us, a guidebook essentially to follow. And he wouldn't have done that if it wasn't so important.
I was sitting here thinking, as you were talking about that, it's like, I don't want to lose my train of thought. It's probably one of the most, I don't know if like the right word is selfless act, but in the midst of that, you're not concerned about anybody else except for that other person. Like they're concerned about you, you're concerned about them. It's like one of the times that you're literally like one flesh and you don't care about anything else but pleasing each other. It's like one of the most selfless acts there is. And like, it's just like, as you were talking about that, it was just like, it really is a beautiful thing.
It is.
But the world has made it nasty. It has made it to where
it's a taboo subject.
That, or you don't feel beautiful about yourself to be able to give this when your husband has seen you every which way, child labor. I mean, regardless, like my husband sits in the bathroom with me. Like you can't, I mean, for real, like there is family time in the bathroom, no matter who's on the pot. I mean, they've seen you every which way and think you're beautiful. If they wanted it elsewhere, they would have gone elsewhere. And it's like, if we can't see that, and I'm guilty of it, like I have a man that loves me and that should be no problem to give, but I battle with it every day. And it's something that I have to ask forgiveness for every day, because it's selfish on my behalf not to give him what he desires when he gives me everything that I desire. Even regardless if he does have a bad day, and it's not like most of the time, if he's having a bad day, it's because that is the lack of in his life. The lack of that. I have withheld that for him. But once it's given, it's like, whoo, that storm's over now.
I tend to get jealous of that part though, because Jess, I can see it in him whenever he's having a bad day, bad mood, whatever, however long it goes. But as soon as he gets some, then his world is so excited and happy. And I'm like, must be nice. I wish it was that easy for me. No, I'm over here like, I'm still frustrated, okay?
I'm so frustrated.
It's so easy to please a man.
Yeah.
In that way. Like you see him having a bad day, that's all he needs, and he's fine. He'll pick up and go on. Yeah.
Boost those endorphins.
Just start singing, and I'm like, why is this so easy for you?
A good friend of ours, I think we had this talk with Charlena, and we was asking her about it, and she was like, girl, you better enjoy that while it's there. She's like, because them roles are going to be reversed. And she was like, and then he's not going to, and you're going to want to. And she's like, you better enjoy it while it lasts. And then she was like, and she's like, it has amazing health benefits. And I was just like, I don't want to be healthy. You know, but it's like all those things. I mean, it's true. You need it. Whether you think you do or not, you actually need it.
Yeah.
And so,
well, it's just like anything else. Once you make the dedication to put forth the action and actually get in a routine, right? If you want to use that word, actually get in a routine and actually do it, everything's so much better, so much more balanced. You feel better. Everybody's happier. You just have to take that first step and that action to actually do it. And it works differently for everybody. Like some people are all about spontaneity. That's awesome. Some people like to be on a routine. That's awesome too. It doesn't have to be, you know, any kind of specific way. Everybody's family and home is going to operate differently. But when you take that step to make that part of your home healthy, it makes everybody so much happier.
it does.
For the most.
Yeah, it does.
I grew up like where it was more of like a taboo subject, and like so I was older before I really was able to enjoy it, just because I didn't know how. Like I mean I knew how, and like
Because nobody talked about it, right?
we didn't talk about it. It was
Yeah.
not a communicated thing. So like I was just like, okay, let's get it done with. Be done. Hurry up, please.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more you're with somebody and the more you communicate, the better it gets for both sides. And like we had the same discussion about, I don't like to have it in the morning. Do not touch me in the morning, please. Stay away. He was totally fine with switching it to the nighttime, even though he would rather do it in the morning. He was totally fine because he would be able to do it more. He was fine with that. He's on board for anything. But I just had to communicate that need of, hey, like, I don't want to do it in the morning. Don't come at me.
I'll chop you.
Yeah. What's like, me and my husband work together, so we're there all the time, and it's like, and our kids are homeschooled, so they're all the time. They're there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you do hit that moment of, hey, he looks really good on that horse right now, you know, and it's just like, hey, man, come here, you know, and it's like, then you don't even have time to, you have to lock yourself in somewhere, like the laundry room, and you got 2 big windows, and we're like pulling things over there, you know, and holding the door shut. It's like, those times are more fun, but it's like, you don't actually get, on my behalf, you don't ever get to do it when you feel the need because of the kids are running around, or it's in the middle of the day, somebody's there, or it's like, and then it's like, by the time you get to the point where you can do it, like that feeling is gone, or something's done aggravated you, and you like, can't get it back.
Yeah.
It's way more emotional for women than it is for men. And I'm guilty of not wanting to do it all the time either. Like I was the world's worst at one point. Like I'd be happy if we never had to do it again. But I'm working on it because I know that that's not how God meant it to be. But it's something where I've had to kind of build myself up to be prepared for it and to actually, you know, make it happen. It's something I've had to like lay down myself for to actually make it a priority.
Yeah. For me personally, and you're right, for women it is more emotionally driven. For men it's more of like a feel good, you know. For some men it's for me personally it's intimacy and detail driven. So I really have to communicate with Joel about what I want or what I like, because if I don't receive those specific things, I get nothing out of it. You know, and that's not that doesn't help anybody or anything. You know, things might be going perfectly good over there for him and he thinks it's all fine and well, and you know, we've had sex that day. Well, it's not fine and well in my mind, and we're still imbalanced because I haven't communicated, hey, we need to do this, or you need to change this, let's try this. And those details are super, super important. So like what you're talking about, where you grew up and it was a taboo subject, nobody talked about it. Talk about it. You have to talk about it. You know, whether you talk about it to a close friend and, you know, kind of gain your perspective and learn where you want to head in regards to your conversation with your husband, or whether you just go straight to him and, you know, talk about it. But that's super, super important. And it increases the intimacy level in the bedroom.
Well, they don't want to, like, same thing with us. Like, we want to please them, and obviously that may be a little easier for women to do than men because, you know, it's obviously easier for them. But if it's like roles are reversed, they don't want to disappoint you.
No,
Right.
Not at all.
it puts them in a bad mood.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Like if we were to do anything and it's just like one of those, like, I'm not really in the mood, get what you need to get.
Hurry up.
Yeah, hurry up. Like this, I mean, for a little while it was like that.
Uh-huh.
And like, it puts a sense in them of, well, I might not be good enough for her anymore, or I'm not doing something right. Like I'm not pleasing her. When it really, in reality, that's not it at all. It's just not into it.
Right.
You know, and it's like, but that's a self thing. I have let myself get so deep down in whatever I had to do that day that I couldn't stop enough to value that time with my husband and move everything to the side and enjoy it. It was just a hurry up and get whatever it is you need and roll on about your business. And like, that's not how it should be. And like I said, I'm guilty of that. And for a little while in doing that, it started hurting his feelings. And it's like, you got to take a step back and it's like, oh, you know, like you just really didn't put it in that perspective. It was just a checklist. Okay, he's taken care of. I can go on about my business, be good for a day or two.
Right.
But initially he never got what he needed. Yeah, he might have got that, but it wasn't what he was desiring really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you have a more selfish standpoint, or you're just lazy and done and can't, you know, that gets into their head. But also, if the roles were reversed, would they do that to us?
It would hurt our downright.
It would.
hurt our
Yes.
feelings.
Yes.
We would be
If they lay there
offended.
like a dead fish and was just like, "Are you done? Are you done?" You know, like, I mean, 'cause in reality, that's what most women, some women do. I'm guilty of it. Just, okay, hurry up, get what you need, roll out, you know, whatever. It's like, how would we feel if like, it would hurt my feelings? Like, I would be like, how dare you?
Make you feel very, very unwanted.
It would.
Yes.
Yep. I'm more of the, like, to me, I like more like, I want to sit on the couch, like Netflix and chill, like put your arm around me, let me hold your hand, or let's, you know, hug, stuff like that. Like, I'm not on where he's at, but I have to make myself get there where he is not wanting to sit on the couch, like put his arm around me or hug me. Yes, he will, but for the most part, he's like, would you get off of me? But that's the part of the intimacy that I crave, is just being with him.
Yeah.
Versus the other. Like, I just crave more, like, let's lay in the bed and, like, laugh over stupid videos, or, you know, I want to cuddle up to your back. Like, those are things that I desire, in which he never complains. He always lets me do, but I am not giving in the other end. So it's like, I give to you, but you never give in to me. So it's things like that.
Yeah.
It takes two. For sure.
Yeah.
I believe that just like anything else in our walk with God or in life, this part of, you know, marriage is a journey. There's always room for growth. There's always room for improvement. It's a journey, just like anything else. Like, you're always moving forward. You're always working on something. Even setting goals works for some people, you know. But like me and Joel, we had a rough spot in our marriage. And prior to that rough spot, we had reached a place where, you know, we weren't making effort in our sex life like we should have. He might come in late. I might not want nothing to do with him when he comes in because I'm frustrated that he came in late. There was so many contributing factors, and we did not have a healthy sex life. And we went through a rough spot in our marriage, and now we're at a point where those things are healed and being healed. And the thing that has changed the most, that has created, positive progress, I guess you could say, in that journey, where we've now reached a point where it's like, okay, we both enjoy it, we both want it. I have a completely different outlook on it. Like, I probably want it more than he does. I do want it more than he does. But it's been the communication about it. I have had to, because I was raised in a home too, we didn't talk about it. I mean, I knew what it was. Like, my mom had the talk with me, but we didn't talk about it. And so it wasn't something that I really knew how to communicate about. And now that's the one thing that has made all the difference in the world in our sex life, has been the communication. But it has been a journey, and it's been a rough one, but it's good. It's going good.
I just, now nobody talks. Like, there's hardly communication in marriages now, which is why there's a majority of them separated or divorced. I mean, there's just no communication. How are they supposed to know what to fix if you don't tell them? Vice versa. Like, that's just the healthiest part of it, is communicate about whatever it is. And sex just has to be one of them. If he's not doing something right, or I'm not liking what he's doing, I'm going to communicate about it, and I would expect him to communicate back to me. And it's not that you're bad at what you do. It's just, hey, let's venture on over here. Like, that just doesn't feel good this go around. Like, it's not that you're doing a bad thing. You're just being, what is that, corrective criticism? Yeah, that's all it is. But it's to grow you, not to hurt you, that you're doing bad. Just might not, what once did just might not be doing it now. Like, let's roll over to this other, and whatever.
Trying new things always helps. Always.
What?
Trying new things always helps.
Oh. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I even had a moment, because I was like, well, what's acceptable and what's like not acceptable? Because in my mind, I grew up in a divided home where my parents were divorced, and I knew what sex was at a very young age, just because of the things that were influenced in our lives. So, like, I knew what it was from a worldly point of view, but didn't know what it was from a godly point of view. Like, I knew you weren't supposed to have sex before marriage, which I did. But it was like, I didn't know the value of it. I just knew that it's just something you wasn't supposed to do. But being in the state that I was in and doing what I did it anyway. But it's like, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Where was I going?
Here, I've got one for you, and then see if you pick it back up.
Okay.
So I have noticed that, like, we're going to go back to communication because it's such a big thing. But when you communicate about sex, it actually helps you communicate better in other areas. And even just having sex with your husband, even if you aren't communicating that great yet, just the act of it helps you communicate better in other areas, because you learn each other that way. Just the feel of your, the feel. It helps you learn to communicate better in all areas of your marriage.
Well, that's like, in the Bible, God calls us to become one. If we're over there not giving our husbands the full attention that they deserve, or not trying to learn how, learn them and what they like. I mean, you're there for that person. You're not there to be yourself over here and him to be himself over here. Like, you're there to become one. And that's, you've got to lay yourself down for that, and you've got to put him first.
Yep. I now remember what I was going to say.
That's perfect.
Okay. Coming from a divided home and knowing the worldly view versus the godly view of it, I struggled with, when in marriage, what was acceptable. So, like, for instance, Keegan struggled more with the porn related things. And so, like, we all know what that brings, what it does to sex and all of that. And it's like, that was the worldly view that I had on it. Like, you had to do those things for him in order for him to be fulfilled, which was not true at all. But it's like, my thought process on it, whenever, like, reading the Bible about it, well, I don't want to do anything that doesn't glorify God. Well, does oral sex glorify God? Does role playing glorify God? Like those things, like I struggled with because I don't want to do that if it defiles God. We talked the other day and our mentor had, kind of told us about some things, and it was like, it does not defile the marriage bed if it's agreed upon between the husband and wife, and if that's a desire and you're doing it to solely just for you two.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like a sigh of relief of like, well, I haven't been sinning this whole time, like it is okay for oral, or it is okay to do whatever it is that you're into, but as long as it is acceptable with you and him, and that glorifies God, whatever y'all are doing together, and it's for you two, not for anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so like that was like a big thing for me, because I was like, well, I don't want to bring the world into it if it's supposed to be such an intimate thing. Like, have we been doing it all wrong this whole time? Have we been bringing worldly into, like, what was it before?
What did Adam and Eve do?
Like Adam and Eve, like, was it supposed to be something that was just so, like, did we destroy it from there to now?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I wanted to know that intimacy, but like it's not any different as long as you're pleasing your husband and he's pleasing you, and it's between you two, that marriage bed is not defiled. And I was just like, well, that makes a lot of sense now, because I was done worried. I was like, oh Lord, I have a lot to repent for.
I think Keegan was more worried than you.
I bet so.
He was like, y'all don't be digging into there no more. I was like,
He was worried.
no. He was so worried.
He was relieved you found the answer. You did. I was too.
He was like, you're not getting too pure for none of that. He was like, you just stay out of it. You quit talking to people. You quit reading the Bible. He's like, why you're not changing none of that? And I was just like, calm down. It ruled in your favor. Jeez. Yeah. But you just wonder, though, because when the world puts it at your fingertips, it's all over the internet, everything that you do, like YouTube, the kids get on something, and next thing you know, there's things on there, and it's just like, why has it been made so nasty? Like, it's so perverted now, and you can't even truly experience it for what it is in oneself, because a lot of us have had sex before marriage. I'm guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I ruined that for my husband versus he ruined that for me. Like, we were not virgins when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's something so pure that we just wasted away. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wish that you could give your whole self to that one person. Instead, your whole self is scattered between whoever you had sex with before. And then your husband gets the leftovers.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
And versus you get the leftovers of them. But
Yep.
thank God we serve a mighty and forgiving God, and we are forgiven for that.
Yeah.
And renewed in our marriage and whatnot.
If only
Come
we
for
would
that.
just listen.
That's right.
If only we would just listen.
I know.
Everything will be so beautiful. Our human nature, our flesh gets in the way.
That's right.
Let me read this third verse. It's 1 Corinthians 7:3-5. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So that goes right back to what you were saying about how when we don't tend to the other's needs, or you're taking a break that's not mutually agreed upon, it drives your spouse to do things that they wouldn't typically do.
Mm-hmm. And I think that verse is also geared, for instance, like we were talking about not being virgins when being married. You can take a time, like either like before marriage, before you get married, like a few days before or a week, however, whatever God lays on your heart, and you can both take your time and repent for the things that you have done, and then come together and be married as one flesh, and it be basically like virginity again.
Yeah.
In a spiritual sense, not necessarily a physical sense, but you've both taken the time to repent for the worldly things that you have done, and now you've come together and you've given yourself to each other, and that makes it a more pure thing.
Yeah.
That's what that feels like to me.
I really like that viewpoint. I actually think that's really beautiful. I'd never thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm. It was drawn out to me by someone else, and it was just like, we were both promiscuous before, and then it was, we took a time before we got married, and we solely just did ourselves and we repented and did all that, and then we come together back as one. And I was just like, that makes a lot of sense, to be able to do, being if you both were not, or if it was just you would need to do the same. But I've never known that, or I might have, done that before I got married. But now that I know, I've repented, obviously, and he knows and I know, and there's no secrets.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I feel like that's another issue that we deal with the church or religion, is that it's such a taboo topic, but God put it in the Bible and he wants us to talk about it. We need to talk about it so that way we can raise our kids how to do it the right way, instead of growing up like us in the dark and, nobody talking about it. Everybody's like, no, don't do that. So then they end up sneaking around everywhere and doing it, instead of like it being out in the open and being like right and wrong, black and white. You know?
Learn through experimentation instead of through open communication.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in the church don't even set those guidelines up for their kids. Like it's not a topic we need to talk about.
No, nobody wants to talk about that topic.
Yeah.
And then I noticed whenever my husband and I got together, we went to, I want to say it was his grandparents' house, but a bed in separate rooms. And I'm like, wait, why are there beds in a separate room? And then I find out a lot of older generations, the married couple slept in opposite rooms. They didn't even sleep in the same room. I don't understand that concept.
My nana
was different.
like that. They sleep in separate rooms, but they say it's because her back hurts. Like the bed that he likes to sleep in hurts her back, so they do it for
One snores.
snores.
Yeah. Put a CPAP on them. It'll be fine.
I've been elbowing Joel in the ribs all the time. I'm like, roll over.
It's okay.
So, I guess however you look at it, as far as whatever you're dealing with in your sexual relationship, in your marriage, you need to talk about it, figure out what's lacking on both ends, and don't take it offensively. Truly hear out what your spouse is saying. If it's the only way you're going to know, it's the only way you're going to learn. And like, that's your spouse. You've been married, even if you're newly married and having these issues, like start now with communication. If you can communicate about one thing, you can communicate about all things. And it should not be something that's hidden, like, for gosh sakes, you're married to them, you're going to have children with them. If you don't already, you live with them, like they know everything about you. It's go ahead and communicate. Like if you don't like something, or it's not pleasing you in that way, or this is not fun for me, just talk about it. It's not that they're bad at it. They may just not know.
That's
They
very
don't
accurate.
know. They can't fix something if they don't know. That's a lot of times where it's like, well, in women's heads, you should already know. If you know me, you should know. Well, you can't hold that against somebody. And I'm guilty of that. Like, you should know.
Well, like a lot of times, for myself, for example, like I grew up not talking about it, and so it took me a while to figure out. So my husband would ask, what do you want? I don't even know.
No.
I don't even know how to, I don't know. And so at first it was like I didn't even know how to tell him how to please me.
Yeah.
At all. I had no idea. It was something we figured out eventually, but we had to communicate about it. But not talking about it is not going to get you anywhere.
That's true. I, on the other hand, did not have, like, Keegan is always pleased. Never had an issue. Never had to tell him, no, like, it just, whatever. It was there. But I'm on the other end of having to tell him, like, I don't want to do that because, like, I don't know, like, I don't like being slapped, okay? And it's just to be funny, like, slap you on the rear end or whatever. But stuff like that makes me feel nasty. And it's like, I don't like that. Like, don't do it. And of course, he literally just did it out of being funny. But at that point in time, like it made me feel very, like, total turn off. Like, I don't like that aspect. So it's like things, even though it was supposed to meant to be funny, like, I don't like that. Like, I don't want to be done like that. Like, whatever you've seen, like, I don't want to be treated like that. So it's, I don't know, it's like different things.
He had to try it though.
Yeah.
Just try the difference.
And he's more of the, like, I want hands on, he's like, he'll say something and do that. It's like, you want to be funny in the middle of it and haul off. told me. You told me. It's like, I was just kidding. So it's like, you have to have fun with it. You can't just be all uptight. Like, enjoy the sense of humor and the learning together. Like, instead of just being so uptight about it and not, like, enjoy your spouse. Like, laugh, cut up, and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that little flame that used to be there way before can be brought back, but you have to be open to bring it back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you just have to go have 1 or 2 drinks before, like, make it a plan. Get in there.
Yeah. If you can work through that together and grow in that together, you can work through and grow in anything together.
Yeah.
And, like, there's been a few times, like, he'll want that, and, like, I'll have to, like, go in the bathroom for a second, like, be like, okay, and get my mind right. Like, Lord, I'm not in the mood for this. I'm not in the mood for this. I need you to help me to set myself to the side. And it's like I have to give myself a pep talk a few times, and it's like when you go in there, it makes it so much better. God kind of engages you into it, and it's just like, I'm trying to fulfill this need. Forgive me for not, giving him whatever he needs up front, but, like, gets me to where I need to be in order to be able to help him fully get what he desires out of it, instead of the whole hurry up and get whatever it is and roll on. Like, it gives him the sense of what he needs, and then we won't have to mess with it for another few days, or maybe that desire will be brought back to me the next day. And being my husband, being as good as he is, doesn't give me a fit about it, doesn't complain, just goes in and just does whatever I need. It's like I need to give that back to him tenfold, because he's so good about not being that way to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
But your partner would much rather you take that couple minutes in the bathroom to, like, prepare yourself than to be like, all right, hurry up, get in. Done yet.
Yeah, because majority of the time it's just like, well, I don't want to do that if you don't want to do it, know, and then it's just like, then you're just in a mess, and you're like, fine, let's just go ahead and do it, and then, like, it's totally run from there. There's been so many nights that he's come at me, and I've, like, made a total butt out of myself, and then I come back because I start feeling bad and be like, oh my God, and then I have to go over there and be like, he's like, I'm not in the mood now, and I'm just like, yes, you are. And then he's just like, why do you have to, like, why can't you just give in to me? And there's been sometimes because it wasn't my idea. Like, I don't want to be messed with unless it's my idea. It's so much easier for me to do it. And he's like, well, it takes years for you to do it. And I'm like, I know. It's sacred. Like, get it from now and then. It's like,
Yeah, keep it.
it's like an espresso. Calm down. But it's not. It's just a selfish deal. And I don't value that time, and I don't make time for it. That's basically what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, because we tend to think, well, I'm tired. I've done this today. I've dealt with the kids. I've gone to work all morning. I got them ready for school. I made them breakfast. Now I made them lunch and homework. And the list can go on. And we can get caught up in that instead of, well, what did he do today? Just because he didn't do that doesn't mean that he was necessarily sleeping on the couch. So, like.
Yeah. And we're so bad about, just immediately putting the kids above our husbands and their needs, which is not how it's supposed to be.
I've done it intentionally. Been like, oh, I gotta go get the kids a bath.
They're 18.
And then I'm like, I've got to pray with them and go to bed. And he was like, I'll see you in the morning. Because he already knows that prayer is going to last a long time.
I'll extra scrub the dishes.
Yeah.
Babe, there was just a lot of them. There was like 3 cups in the sink. They were really dirty.
Like, I already did them. What
It's like the longer you procrastinate, like, they wait. Like, he's got, like, the patience of Job, and he'll be sitting there waiting for me when I walk in. I'm like, I think the gates are open. I gotta close the gate.
Yeah. I'll take an extra long shower, and then I'll turn it off, and I'll listen for our fan, because if our fan's on, that means he's asleep. And if he's not, I'm like, okay, Lord, I need help here.
You're so in my hair.
We put so much effort into missing it. Whenever it'd just be way more simpler if we just did it. You got it done.
Much effort into
It's a struggle, Sarah. Okay. It's a struggle. We need some of what you got, okay?
You know what our biggest struggle's been here lately? Living in the 5th wheel right now. if Macy's awake, like there is none of it because she's like, why are y'all rocking the train? You're gonna knock it over. It's gonna fall over. We're like, we're just wrestling. It's fine. We're just wrestling. The door does not lock.
Yeah.
Yep.
She doesn't lock.
Nice.
There's no locks on our doors.
No.
There's not. So it's like you're gonna lay in front of the door. Your head's gonna be like the door's open. It's like, what do you do? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
When that time comes, it's just you
Yeah, get creative.
you have to get creative, and that just comes with enjoying that time with your husband. Laugh, cut up. It is. You make it fun.
Yep.
Instead of looking for all the excuses and dragging it out to when it's really just pointless. You put more stress on yourself doing that than to go in and be like, you know what? Let's do this.
Yep.
You intend to get to bed a lot earlier too, because
Yeah.
you're not like dragging out your whole evening.
Just want to sleep.
What could have been over
I know.
forever ago, and now you're sitting there at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know. Like, why did I do this to myself? Knowing good and well what I did.
Yep. You just really do it to yourself, and God's just sitting there like, oh my God.
Shaking his head at you. Maybe rolling his eyes a little bit.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Always shaking his head.
Yep. Well, on that note, should we close in a word of prayer?
I think so.
Okay. Lord, we thank you so much for this conversation that we were able to have tonight, that we're able to come together and talk so openly and hopefully bring a word to other wives and other households that need to hear of our experiences and our journeys. Hopefully, the word that we've shared tonight will reach other homes and other wives and help them through their journeys as well. And we pray over each and every one of us and our homes and our husbands and our families, and that you would help us to be able to communicate and to reciprocate with our spouses and tend to each other's needs. And for our listeners as well, that they would be able to do the same thing in their homes, Lord, and that you would help us all to be able to grow in our marriages, in our relationships with our husbands, not just emotionally, but sexually as well, so that we can increase the intimacy in our homes and grow into happier and healthier marriages. In Jesus' name, amen.